Hello. Welcome to the fourth part of my readings for the Alchemy department. Oh, oh man. Let's see. Today I shall be reading Lepidope. Real long words. Let's try this again. Lepidopithriathea. Lepidopithriathea? I'll say it like that. Ah. Oops. There we go. Lepidotrathea. Yep. Lepidotrapathea. Tiny nuisances to be destroyed. Eat up ether around your experiments. Easily dispatched with the fulminous aether. Excerpt. Alchemic creatures. K. Ledinoff. 1213. Ruzlov looked down at the scrap of paper in his hand. He scrawled something on the other night in his sleep, but he couldn't easily make it out what he said. His divination had worked perfectly. His penmanship not so much. Kerr. I can't even read my own handwriting anymore, he grumbled as he walked silently down the hallway. His flowing robes earned him no lack of stares. As he walked around Site 19, unfamiliar with the layout, behind him, Otto struggled to keep up, weighed down with a large backpack full of clinking glassware and topped with a cast iron cage. The young man's much brighter robes were cut short, almost in the style of a lab coat, and his sunny blond hair was perpetually disheveled as he tried to keep up with the elder alchemist. Master, you did write it in your sleep. You can't exactly expect perfect accuracy. I've told you about keeping your pen inked up. Your pen was basically dry when you wrote this. It's why you couldn't finish the note. The cage appeared empty to those not trained to be sensitive to the aether flows. Inside there are dozens of tiny creatures, but they had run into a bit of a snag, and it was time to consult an expert. Excuse me. Roslev held up a hand, stopping a nearby lab-coated doctor. Is there a Dr. Kerr? His voice rumbled out again. Is there a research lab with a butterfly expert there? The man in front of him blinked for a few times, taking in the flowing bottle green robes and bright purple shoes on his feet. I. Are you lost? The doctor restored his belt to the small pager located there. I am not lost, nor am I a security threat. He indicated towards the badge on his chest, which healthily stated R. Diaghilev, Director, Alchemy Division, Level 4, Asclepius. I am, however, looking for someone. I. Oh, I'm so sorry. He held up his hand awkwardly. Dr. Zartion, but you can call me Christopher if you prefer. Apologies for the mix-up, Director. I'm not sure if you refer to a specific researcher or not. Ruslav nodded his head, shaking Dr. Zarshian's hand with his right. The heavy knuckles on his left hand holding up the scrapper. I divine that there is a researcher here who understands butterflies. They work in some specific lab. I can't read the handwriting. He looked down at the scrap paper with the badly scrawled S19RKIR with the trailing few letters. I know that feeling. Getting old sucks. Behind the doctor, Arteros passed one hand over his head and made a quiet whoosh sound. Rosloff smiled slightly in amusement as the doctor tapped his temple with one finger. I think Kuryu Labs has a researcher who's interested in butterflies. I hope that helps. Excuse me, Director. He smiled and walked away down a hallway towards some other section of the facility. Rosloff nodded, with a ponderous motion to his head. We must find this Kuryu Labs, apparently. The pair of alchemists set off with silent steps, the only sounds of their passage being the clinking of glass and rattling of cast iron. Are to be immediately recalled as they possess a harmful picture of alchemic creatures to all involved. Any copies turned in are subject to compensation in the amount of 17 thaler per copy. Exit. College of Alchemists Literature. College of Alchemists Literature Review. 1751. A few more on stairs and some directions from a security officer who thankfully respected Roslov's position more than his own curiosity, left the elder alchemist at a door in a small attached wing to Site 19. He swiped the magnetic badge through the access panel and held a tiny NFC chip for verification. The door slid back with a soft whoosh, to reveal a series of rooms and offices surrounded by large windows, the light from between the nearby trees flowing in naturally, and lit the office with a soft green glow. The two alchemists strode into Kuryu Labs, and Ruzlov couldn't help but smile. Most of the Foundation's alchemic flows were minimal, as most places were after the seal. Even still, the clinical and detached nature of the Foundation caused the currents to seal slowly through the cracks of the doors and along the floors. Kuryu Labs was different. The tenorous aethers sang in the air, along with the aronas. There's something more here. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. Ah, Adebayo, you would have appreciated this. Rizlov stepped up, attempting to be helpful. Master? He held a small notebook along with a very old pen that Rizlov had given him a few months ago. The apprentice alchemist had taken to using it for everything. Nothing, Ardio. Suddenly commenting on the flows in this area. Concentrate. His hands swept in front of him for a moment as he drew them to sharper focus. I, oh, oh, I hadn't ever felt something like this in the Foundation. The young man's eyes opened wider, and his feet showed in the same purple as his master's slippers, a few inches as his master slipped a few inches forward. Roslov smiled, the light from his deep-set eyes a rare treasure on his face. Now we find this Kuryu. A head poked up from a nearby door. I'm sorry, did you ask for me? Dr. Mark Kuryu's head was half visible out of his office door. I heard my name. Roslov shuffled forward on silent steps. I'm looking for a researcher Kuryu. I have an item I need assistance with. I was given information that you are the person to talk to. Mark stood up from the office chair and walked out to greet the pair of alchemists. His surreptitiously took in the badge on Roslov's chest and held his hand. Dr. Diaghilev, it is good to meet you. I'm Director Kuryu. This is Kuryu Labs. I'll help however I can. Is this item logged as anomalous? Roslov nodded, reaching back to unhook the heavy cast iron cage from Arthios' pack. All alchemic creatures are considered anomalous at this time. We came across these in Macedonia and need assistance. Mark cocked his head to one side. I apologize, Director. I'm not familiar with alchemy. Are those creatures? And this might just be my own ignorance, but I don't see anything. To his own credit, Dr. Curio kept a straight face the entire time. Ruzlov clicked his tongue. Of course, my apologies. They are not visible to the naked eye, usually. Artio, will you please reveal them to the Director? Artio nodded and gently lowered his pack, stepping forward and drawing his half-finished marble and ebonite crozier. Of course, Elder. Director, if you would take a step back. Mark nodded and held his chin in one hand. His eyes narrowed slightly. Is this? Ruzlov nodded. Alchemy, yes. He turned to Artyom. Take the Aronis, yes, like that. Now the Ignis. Artyom's hand slowly moved in a circle as the Kyozier spun a figure 8 in his hand. The fourth language flowed from his lips as he recited the proper formula. The air around the cage simmered, and several small creatures came into view. Smaller than a thumbnail, the tiny butterflies are made of different materials. Some were tiny crystalline things, others were made of fire or water. Alchemic butterflies. Lepidopteria. Lepidopteria. I need assistance creating a more permanent containment vessel, and figured out how to care for them. The alchemy I can handle. The butterflies? Ruslov's voice rumbled off as he looked at Mark significantly. I think you may have the wrong person. I am Dr. Curio, but Researcher Curio is the one with the butterflies affinity. Can you wait here a moment? Ruslov nodded, and Mark stepped away, heading down the hallway to the left, to room 205, and knocked. A hollow boom could be heard from the depths of the lab. Ruslov's eyebrow raised at the igneous aether swirling. Dr. Curio and a young woman came around the corner. She was smoking slightly and wearing a heavy silver-colored suit of some kind of fire-resistant material. Ruslov's robes contained several of the same properties, but didn't have the industrial chic about it. These are the two alchemists, Zin. I think they need your help. Dr. Curio waved her forward and nodded at the two alchemists. If you'll forgive me, I have to go back to work. You know where my office is, and Zin is at your disposal. He gave them a curt nod and walked back to his office, closing the door most of the way. The woman in front of them was wearing a fireproof suit and held the helmet of the suit under one arm. Hi, I'm Zin. Do you need help with something? She couldn't help but be a little put off by the two men in robes. She eyed Artio especially suspiciously, holding a marble and rubber mace in his hand. Ruslov took a step forward and held out one heavily scarred hand. Da, I am Ruslav Diegolis, director of the Alchemy Division. I was told you were the expert if I had a butterfly that needed studying. The twinkle in Zin's eyes told him everything he needed to know. Elders Diegolis and P. Flamel will be in charge of further review of alchemic creature lore in the future. An official reprimand has been issued for alchemic Blandinoff found at ... Excerpt. College of Alchemists Literature Review, 1752. A few minutes later, Zin, Ruslav, and Arturo stood in room 217. So tell me once more, they're made of what? Ruslav nodded, his hands moving in slow circles. Aether. the fabric of the energies that make up atoms and molecules. Cut and tie everything together and apart, mostly. Alchemists can manipulate these, but they are almost several creatures. But these are almost several creatures in this world, and others which can interact with them. These lepidop, Lepidopteria are one of them. He's reached his hand out, and a small butterfly composed of ice and tiny drifts of snow aligned on his finger. They collect excess ethers from plants and animals for subsistence. Their bodies are less physical and more manifestations of what they eat. This one is not literally ice, for example. It's made of a combination of aromas and aqueous ethers. Your eye and mind simply interpret these as ice. Zine leaned in and stared at the tiny creature. Amazing. I had no idea this all even existed. She turned her hand over, a slow smile creeping across her face, as a tiny creature which appeared to be made up of slightly dusty wind swirled around her fingertip, crawling to her palm, and lifted off to the side of the cage in silent flight. Rosloff nodded. This is by intention, researcher. It goes without saying that the things you work on with us are confidential. He closed his hands, and the flow of air around the three of them slowly tightened until they were in a personal, soundproof bubble of air. Of course, she nodded, reaching out with a match to feed a tiny butterfly made of dancing flames. So how can I help you all? The tiny butterfly aligned to the match, and the bright flame at the end petered out as the butterfly sucked away the ether of the miniature fire. Ruzov's hands turned to the cage. The 2 dozen or so butterflies circled the area inside. We are unaware of how to care for these creatures long term. Several have been dying, and others keep appearing, and we cannot determine why. We've tried all the alchemic means at our disposal. He looked across at Zin and smiled very slightly. So we naturally assumed it would be something more basic. Adebayo and I have no idea how to care for butterflies, and Audio prefers cats. Audio leaned back against the nearby table, idly trying to gather enough aether together to ruffle the linen skirt on a nearby lab table. Cats are the best. Fish are second best. Rosov waved a hand idly at Audio. A familiar gesture of concussion. Zin leaned back and looked at the ceiling, before turning to look down at the cage, a thought striking. How long have you had them? Ruzlov rotated the cage a few times, summoning the tenebrous aether to feed some of the butterflies made of shadows and negative space. 6 weeks, more or less. That'll do it. Butterflies only live about 2 weeks. What do they look like as caterpillars? She replied idly, reaching to the cage. The 2 alchemists were uncharacteristically quiet as Zin raised an eyebrow at the 2 of them. Audio and Ruzlov exchanged a sheepish glance. We had not considered this. I had never encountered Lepidopteria as anything other than this form. Ruzlov's voice trembled in embarrassment. Zin waved a hand. So the key is to find the eggs in the caterpillars. She reached forward and closed the cage door, lifting the bottom up slightly. I don't know where they keep them. They don't exist in our dimension, right? Rosov waved a hand non-committedly. without going through significant training and instruction. Yes, I do not really. Hmm. Adoro stepped forward and raised his hands. He spoke quietly in the fifth language, and his hands exuded a soft glow as the tenebrous aethers were washed away by the luxurious aether. Several small caterpillars could be seen among the tiny rocks and twigs at the bottom of the cage. Ruslov's voice rumbled out in a pleased noise. Of course, they were hiding in the tenebrous. Audio, that was very good thinking. They live off of the luxurious aether until they're adults. I wonder how they determine which aether they'll sustain on as adults, though. The light winked out as the tiny creatures eagerly gathered up the energies. Zane smiled at the two alchemists. This was fascinating. I'm glad I could help. She crossed her arms in front of her and looked at the clock, not realizing how quickly time had passed with the two strange men in her robes. Ruslov raised an eyebrow, feeling an opportunity at hand. Miss Curiew, are you interested in being involved in the containment project for these creatures? Lepidopteria. These creatures resemble small butterflies to the third eye. They are non-harmful and consume small bits of extraneous aether. They are useful as cleaning aids after excess aether flows and can be found. Dot dot dot. Excerpt. Alchemic Creatures. R. Diaglyph. 1774. Revised. I get the theory, but I'm not getting the practice. What exactly should I be doing? The 3 weeks of training researcher Curiew had passed quickly, and she'd been insistent on learning everything needed to care for the Lepidopteria. Bring your hands in front of you. Do not visualize the flows. Feel the flows. They are all around us. They are not visible, but tangible. Do you feel them? Wozlov's voice flowed in a familiar cadence as of teaching a novice the basics of alchemy. They had gone over them for 3 weeks now, but isolating luxurious aether flows was difficult and took intense concentration. I feel them, but what do I do? How do I get the one I want? Zen's hands shook slightly as she concentrated, small beads of sweat forming on her forehead as, as the aether flows sluggishly responded to her will. Oh, hold on, something just came up. Alright, something just came up, so I'm going to have to postpone this stream for a little bit. I will be back, hopefully real soon, and then I'll continue with this story about butterflies. See you then.